Computers are rational, therefore, physical processes can explain rationality. The common objection to the argument that rationality cannot arise from physical processes is the alleged ability of computer programs to engage in deductive reasoning. The key feature of rationality is that, in a valid deductive argument, a conclusion necessarily follows. Since computer programs are based on physical processes and exhibit a key feature of rationality, physical processes can account for our ability to reason, the argument goes. This is another misplaced contention. As highlighted in this chapter, human reasoning is based on having mental insight. Computer programs cannot see anything. Humans not only have insights, our insights are also meaningful. We have the ability to understand and question the meaning of the conclusions we come to. Computer programs are not characterized as having meaningful insights. Computer programs are based on syntactical rules, the manipulation of symbols, not semantics meaning. To understand the difference between semantics and syntax, consider the following sentences. I love my family. Agapo ten oikoginia mu. Ima amara pirabareka balabeza. These three sentences mean the same thing, I love my family. This refers to semantics, the meaning of the sentences. But the syntax is different. In other words, the symbols used are unalike. The first sentence is using English symbols, the second Greek, and the last Bangla. From this the following argument can be developed. 1. Computer programs are syntactical, based on syntax. 2. Minds have semantics. 3. Syntax by itself is neither sufficient for, nor constitutive for semantics. 4. Therefore, computer programs by themselves are not minds. 76. Imagine that an avalanche somehow arranges mountain rocks into the words I love my family. It would be absurd to say that the mountain knows what the arrangement of rocks symbols means. This indicates that the mere manipulation of symbols syntax does not give rise to meaning semantics. 77. Computer programs are based on the manipulation of symbols, not meanings. Likewise, I cannot know the meaning of the sentence in Bangla just by manipulating the letters symbols. No matter how many times I manipulate the Bangla letters, I will not be able to understand the meaning of the words. This is why for semantics we need more than the correct syntax. Computer programs work on syntax and not on semantics. Computers do not know the meaning of anything. Professor John Searle's Chinese room thought experiment is a powerful way of showing that the mere manipulation of symbols does not lead to an understanding of what they mean. Imagine that you are locked in a room, and in this room are several baskets full of Chinese symbols. Imagine that you, like me, do not understand a word of Chinese, but that you are given a rule book in English for manipulating the Chinese symbols. The rules specify the manipulation of symbols purely formally, in terms of their syntax, not their semantics. So the rule might say, take a squiggle out of basket number 1 and put it next to a squiggle sign from basket number 2. Now suppose that some other Chinese symbols are passed into the room, and that you are given further rules for passing back Chinese symbols out of the room. Suppose that unknown to you the symbols passed into the room are called questions by the people outside the room, and the symbols you pass back out of the room are called answers to questions. Suppose furthermore, that the programmers are so good at designing the programs and that you are so good at manipulating the symbols, that very soon your answers are indistinguishable from those of a native Chinese speaker. There you are locked in your room shuffling your Chinese symbols and passing out Chinese symbols in response to incoming Chinese symbols. Now the point of the story is simply this. By virtue of implementing a formal computer program from the point of view of an outside observer, you behave exactly as if you understood Chinese, but all the same you do not understand a word of Chinese. 78. In the Chinese room thought experiment, the person inside the room is simulating a computer. Another person manages the symbols in a way that makes the person inside the room seem to understand Chinese. However, the person inside the room does not understand the language, they merely imitate that state. Professor Searle concludes, having the symbols by themselves, just having the syntax, is not sufficient for having the semantics. Merely manipulating symbols is not enough to guarantee knowledge of what they mean. 79. The objector might respond to this by arguing that although the computer program does not know the meaning, the whole system does. Professor Searle has called this objection the system's reply. 80. However, why is it that the program does not know the meaning? The answer is simple: it has no way of assigning meaning to the symbols. Since a computer program cannot assign meaning to symbols, how can a computer system, which relies on the program, understand the meaning? You cannot produce understanding just by having the right program. Searle presents an extended version of the Chinese room thought experiment to show that the system as a whole does not understand the meaning. Imagine that I memorize the contents of the baskets and the rule book, and I do all the calculations in my head. You can even imagine that I work out in the open. There is nothing in the system that is not in me, and since I don't understand Chinese, neither does the system. 81. Atheism does not, and cannot, have a monopoly on reason. It is a shame that there is a growing perception that atheists are rational and that atheism is based on reason. Nothing could be further from the truth. Blind, random physical processes cannot account for our ability to reason. This is why atheism invalidates the very thing it claims to use to reject the divine. However, according to Islamic theism, we live in a rational universe created by the all-seeing, the wise and the knowing Creator, who gave us the ability to reason. This is coherent and accounts fully for our rational faculties. Nothing else will, indeed, nothing else can. Maintaining that blind, random physical processes can make sense of our ability to see, think and learn is irrational. Those who persist in this thinking are in fact adversaries of reason. They are no different from a taxi driver putting on a blindfold and insisting that he can drive his passengers to their destination. Chapter 4. Self-evident. Why atheism is unnatural. Imagine one evening you receive a call from David, one of your old school friends you used to sit next to during science lessons. You haven't spoken to him for years, but you remember the weird questions he used to ask you.